couple of ground rules here, guys. First and foremost, if you are wearing a mask, like I said, please remove it. As if you are going to ask a question, we do need you to take your mask off. And also just before the panel starts, because we don't want to have any issues here. So with that being said, guys, good morning, Phoenix Comic-Con 2016. Masks off, please. If there's any empty seats, obviously everybody's taking a seat, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Also, no blocking any doorways or leaning against walls, anything like that, as it is against fire code. And also, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off, because if they ring, that would be bad, like crossing the streams bad. Now, enough of that, guys. Let's get on with this party. Our guest today really needs no introduction, but he deserves it because he's because of his amazing and astonishing career. Growing up, you've probably heard Maurice's a lot more than you think, as he has been the voice of some of the world's most beloved cartoon characters, and his career has spanned decades and has earned him 2 Emmy Awards. A list of just a few of the characters he is known for are these: Egon Spengler from The Real Ghostbusters, Mr. Freeze, Kif and Morbo from Futurama, Dr. Doom, and of course, the Brain. As well as countless and other voices. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Maurice LaMarche.
Thank you very much. I'm so nervous I'm leaving now. I thought maybe 5 people. This is amazing. Woo, let's do this.
All right. Now,
wait a second.
Big Mark?
You sit down. I'm gonna sit. Okay. You know, I gotta keep the energy going. Yes, thank you very much. How you guys doing? Coming out for me. This is so nice. Wow. So, that's not now I'm all messed. I'm going to ask you a question. So, how do you like being a moderator here? It's only you do voiceover work. Tell us some of your credits.
But I am in a couple of script readings with some of my fellow moderators here. We're usually doing like 6 or 7 characters at a time, basically talking to ourselves, but not for money, unfortunately.
Well, you know what? That's how I started. I started doing a college radio station. I wasn't even in college. they corralled me out of high school because a gal that I know was dating this guy at the college who was working at the college radio station, and we did this little sort of comedy troupe. We did these little radio plays that never went out beyond York University in Toronto. But when I think about it, that's the first sort of on-air thing I ever did. So, you know, that's how you do it. You just get your chops going, you know, and sink your teeth into scripts and characters and stuff like that. So there you go.
And of course, to start off the panel, Maurice, what would Morbo say about being in Phoenix today?
Morbo is pleased to be at Phoenix Comic-Con, but sticky. Very sticky. I will destroy you!
And with that being said, guys, we're going to open up to you guys, the audience, for any questions. So I'm obviously going to put this numbers. Whoa. Wow! Woo! And that's what
There's a sound effect.
Hold on, it's this auxiliary cord. I guess it's for like an iPod or something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Bear with me. Yeah. Oh, now it doesn't want to do it. So I saw a gentleman in the blue shirt over there. Feel free to step up to the microphone or talk really loud. It's entirely up to you. Just don't talk really loud on the microphone.
What are we going to do tonight? Seriously, more of a comment, I think.
No, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to find the best steak in Phoenix and then take over the world. Wait, everybody was clapping while you started your question. Start again.
Just a comment, for the best shows I've seen, Darkwing Duck, Batman the Animated Series, Pinky and the Brain, and the Real Ghostbusters. So I guess you've done 2 of the 4.
I'm batting 50%. That's good. I did do, I think, 3 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very pleased and honored to be part of those shows. Real Ghostbusters was really my second job, but the longest job in the cartoon biz for me. I came right off of Inspector Gadget, where I played the chief for season 2, because the first 65 were done in Toronto, which oddly enough is where I'm from, but I moved before that happened, so I didn't get to work with Don on the first 65. So they recast it, and they did the last 22 down here down in Los Angeles, and I got to be the chief and henchman number 2. And anytime Don had to, anytime Gadget went back in time and met one of his ancestors, it was in Don's contract that he didn't have to do any character but Gadget. And I also did Underwater Gadget. And anytime Gadget went underwater, this is a little voiceover workshop 101 from Maurice. Here's what we do when you're pregnant. I'm underwater. Got Gadget. Aqualung. And Don said, I can't do that without getting turned on. So I started playing, Gadget. And Don at one point turned to me and said, Bill Dana, I used to think did me better than anybody, but now I think you moved into the #1 spot. So when he retired and we did a series called Gadget and the Gadgetinis that aired everywhere in the world except the United States, Don said, get Mo to do me. He sounds more like me than I do. So I got to take over as Gadget for a TV movie and a series. But to go into Real Ghostbusters and have each of those scripts, Michael Gross, God rest his soul, and Joe Medjick, ran the show along with Joe Straczynski. And they did the movie, and they said that their goal was to make each episode something that would have worked as Ghostbusters 2, before they'd done Ghostbusters 2. So the quality control on that was that each episode would have worked as a movie, and it had a very cinematic feel to it. It felt very true to the film. And and on that subject, now that there's a new film coming out, I know there's a lot of falderall about how can we do this? The Ghostbusters are women. This is going to be a fantastic film. I have not seen it, but I know a few of the players. And this is going to be great. It's going to be great. Melissa's a friend of mine, and it's just be ready for a real. If you let go of your prejudices, that's what Zootopia is all about. All prejudgment, including sexist prejudgment, and just let this film be the terrific film it's going to be. Okay, that's all.
Speaking as the cartoon ego, of course, that gives me a great moral authority to say so.
I was going to ask that. Do you think that Kate McKinnon's characters, and I personally see it as very much an homage?
I bet it is a little tip of the hat to the animated series. They've given her that sort of, whatever that is, ding dong, a blonde white ho-ho. Hostess ho-hos that were frosted. Anyway, whatever that thing is that I don't eat anymore and yet still remain fat. It's always guys my size go, no, I'm not doing sugar, no carbs. And the people who eat anything are, pencil them like you. Yes, you eat anything you like, don't you?
Yes.
Not you. Yes, you eat anything you like, don't you?
Yes. But I'm also an amateur strongman, so that's part of it.
Oh, okay, great.
I wanted to ask if you would talk a little bit about your background with Rodney Dangerfield and how you got hooked up with him.
Well, the way I got hooked up with Rodney, I used to open for Rodney across the country for the years of late 1984 to 1985. And I got hooked up with Rodney because Jim Carrey got sick. So he was using Jim as his opening act. And Rodney, he loved Jim, but he sort of is like the victim of the last person he spoke to. And so when I opened for him, he just kind of kept me on, and I ended up touring the country with him, and I had the greatest experience. Rodney Dangerfield was we pay a little tribute to Rodney and kill two birds with one stone. I tell you, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape. Yeah, last week I went to bed with an inflatable girl. Now I got an inflatable guy looking for me. It ain't easy being me. I got to do an impression and wipe all the sweat off my face. Which is probably why he did it. Anyway, he was an eccentric guy. He had many rituals. Rodney would always, for instance, before going on stage, he would not get into the suit until about 5 minutes before going on stage. He walked around in a robe. He was in a robe backstage, and Rodney had a unique property. I think it might have counted as a hero's ability on the show Heroes. He was a terry cloth repellent. He had a repellent force field around him. No bathrobe could stay done up around Rodney. So Rodney, constantly walking, hey Maurice, how you doing, man? Okay, you all right? All right. You excited for the show tonight? Okay, very good. And then it would come open and there would be I got used to it, but one night, my mom came to Vegas.
Oh no.
And I'm giving him he's sitting down at a glass dining room table with his dressing room.
Oh my God.
Mama, you got a good kid here, okay? He's a good boy, I tell you, okay? He works very clean, I like that. He must have raised him right. And the rogue's going to open her and open her. And I'm throwing myself across the table. So, Mom! You winning at the tables? Anyway, I'm winning here. Anyway, but he was an extremely generous man. He's the only headliner that ever gave me 50% billing. In other words, my letters were half the size of his. Everybody else quarter the size, third of the size. Underneath, roast beef. Roast beef and Maurice LaMarche. Rodney Dangerfield, I've got a picture of my dad going like that, and that's my favorite picture of my father. I had the opposite father of every comedian I know. My father told me when I was a teenager, he said, look, you're obviously not going to be a guy that can sit at a desk or work in a store. You've got something, you've got to follow your dream, you've got to follow your passion. Don't be a workaday Joe. It's not going to work for you. Your brother, maybe, my brother became a stockbroker, but not you. And I've got another younger brother who's a horse breeder, but he was along that. So that was and so my dad was so proud. He's standing there gesturing to Caesar's Palace's billboard, and there I am, my letters, and that's my favorite picture of my father, because to him that meant I made it. I lost him shortly after that. So I'm glad I got it. Yes, I don't know if I probably, God, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up. I just think of, we all want to make our dads proud, right? So Rodney was a champion of young comedians, and he made sure that, I remember we showed up to a gig once, and Mike didn't have billing, and he refused to go on until my name was up there, and I was like, Mr. Canadian, Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, it's okay, Rodney, it's all right. They're coming to see you, they don't need to know about me. And he goes, no, man, that sucks. Let me tell you, when I was a guy, they don't know you're out there. They're gonna hate me, man. When I started out, man, I tell you, I never got billing, and it was hard, and so I went in my dressing room, and his assistant came out and said, come here, take a look at this. And there was a guy on a cherry picker, and this billboard was way up. It was on like a stilt, like the Jetsons, it was way down up there. Here's this guy risking his life on a cherry picker, putting up literally, Rodney made such a stink that this guy went out there at 6 o'clock and put my name up. So that was Rodney. Rodney was a great guy. He launched Zach Kinison, he launched Bob Saget, Louis Anderson, Jerry Seinfeld, did his young comedian special, and, boom. His Tonight Show did it too, but, so that was Rodney, and I remember him fondly, and will always be grateful to him for the start of the game, for the boost he gave to my comedy career. Next question.
Hi there, Maurice. Hey,
Hi.
thank you for coming. This is the
Thanks for having me.
number one panel I've been looking forward to in Phoenix Comic-Con, so
Okay.
really appreciate it. Just curious, when you were doing Futurama and you were doing the voice of the Donbot and the Clamps, and they would have a scene where they're talking to each other, would you do it in one take where you would just jump back and forth between voices, or would you record one voice and then on the recording, like basically talk to that recording?
You know, I gotta tell you. That's a very good question. It's the kind of question that guy can get clammed for. Yeah, boss, you want me to give him the clams? Give him the clams? I am very dead, boss! Seems like a nice enough guy. Keep it up, we're gonna mafia things up a bit. That's right, boss! I'm here to mafia it up! That's the way we do it. And Billy West, you know, if we'd had to do it the other way, where we just stopped and did all his lines in one character, we'd have been there forever. Billy West maybe is a little bit better than me at playing three characters in the scene, talking amongst himself. But he had a lot of opportunities to do that. So he'd be the professor, and Zoidberg, and Fry. And he'd have 2-3 pages of dialogue where it was just him.
Wow.
There you go, one take. Okay, let's move on. He had it, you know, he just had it. He just does. And so, you know, I mean, I got decent at that on The Critic, where I had to play a lot. In one episode, I think I played 27 characters. So I got good at it too. So that's the way we work, you know, that's part of our stock in trade, is to be able to do all the characters in the scene. Yeah, I did Al Franken's radio show, Senator Al Franken, back when he was doing radio. And Mel, it was Al, he played Dick Cheney. Meg Ryan played my wife, and I played like 7 different characters, and we did it radio play style. And one of the great thrills for me is remembering Meg Ryan just looking at me going, I said, yeah, but you orgasm to a sandwich, so.
Okay, so you can blame John DiMaggio for this question, but what's your Tupac story?
What's my what?
Tupac story?
Tupac story. Tupac?
Yeah.
I don't have a Tupac story. I'm going to blame John DiMaggio for that question. I have a Tupac story?
Apparently. He said it on the commentary of I Know That Voice. So.
I've got a Tupac story.
Now you got to think.
Tupac and I walked into a bar. No, I have no Tupac story. I'm so sorry. Excuse me while I just tweet to John. WTF.
Okay.
You get another question. Because you're all right, okay? Yeah. Every time I wipe sweat off my brow. It's a dry heat, apparently. So it's flame. So, you run the nature feel for it. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned The Critic, and in that you usually did a lot of the celebrity voices.
Yes.
Like, did that just come from, you know, your background in improv, or?
Well, my background in stand-up, and funnily enough, Mike Reese and Al Jean had, when they were just starting out and writing, they actually worked for Johnny Carson. They were down at the Comedy Store all the time, looking at new comedians. They knew my work from that, and I didn't know that they were sort of, boosters of mine. So they hired me based on my ability. They thought, we're writing a show about, with celebrity clips in it. We should get that young impressionist guy we remember from the early 80s. So that was how that came about. And we remain friends to this day. And now it still throws me on The Simpsons a couple of times a year just to, if there's a voice that Harry or Hank, or Dan don't, feel comfortable with or whatever they had me do Toucan Sam in an episode, and then they had me do Captain Crunch as well, but they promoted it to Admiral. It was Admiral Crunchy.
I'm a big fan of Disney. You've done some movies like Frozen and TV shows like House of Mouse, Mickey Mouse Works, and Pepper Ann.
Yes.
What's your most favorite Disney role?
My most favorite Disney role I would have to say it's Mr. Big. Zootopia so far. I mean, I love
Mouse.
What's that?
Mortimer.
Ah, cha-cha. Well, thank you for asking that question. Now, Mortimer was came from, you know, he was an original character back in the 30s. And so they showed me that, and the audio on it was terrible. So it was very muffled, but I knew it had that kind of almost John Lovitz-y kind of cadence to it. So I really just kind of Lovitzed it up, you know, without doing any of that. Yeah, well, the credit. You know, I took him a little more 30s. But thank you for liking Mortimer. I'm just, you know, what's being done now with Zootopia and the many levels that Zootopia works on, I'm just so proud to be associated with that film. And Big's a fun character. You've seen the film, but it drops on Tuesday, by the way, on DVD and Blu-ray. So I hope you guys all go out by.
With all the animation and all the different work that you've done over the years, is there any interesting or any like behind the scenes or funny stories that you have between working for different shows, different movies, short films?
Apparently I met Tupac once. Well, you know, I mean, what's interesting to me, I mean, I'm always amazed anybody who wants, you know, to know anything about what I do. I mean, in my life, it's like go into dark room with carpeting on walls and different sort of pieces of foam rubber. Look at words, read them into microphone, go home, collect check. That's sort of my bottom line view of my life. And you know, when I've got friends visiting from out of town and they say, they really want to come watch me work, I said, you want to watch a fat man stand up on a mic and just say stuff? You know, but apparently, you know, I mean, I know, and I'm immensely grateful for this chance I've been given to do this very, very longevity, you know, laden career. I can do this and will do this until they wheel me out toes up from a studio. You know, hopefully many years from now. You know, because you can. There's no overexposure. You just change your voice. Nobody gets too used to your voice because you can change. I can change it. So I'm just, you know, I view it as winning the lottery, but I took the 26 annual payments instead of. I had a lot of friends. Jerry Seinfeld. I was friends with Gary Shandling, God rest his soul. And you know, I sort of felt at one point in my life like, wow, it's never going to happen for me. I'm never going to get the big TV series and, you know, $250,000 a week paycheck, you know, per episode. And, you know, it's like, it's all a bunch of BS I laid on myself because I think I've had a really great life. And I've got a curriculum vitae, if you will, of shows that people will enjoy for decades and have enjoyed for decades. I've gotten to keep working, and that's all an actor wants to do. You know, I get to work every day. Some people are on a sitcom for 4 years, and yeah, they make a few $1 million, and they're kind of set for life if they invest well, and they never work again. They're miserable because they go, I only see me as that character. I get to be a character every day. So thank you guys for keeping on tuning in and giving me that kind of longevity. Thank you very much.
This is going to be good.
Not very good. That's what makes Rob Paulson Rob Paulson. That's why he got an Emmy for Pinky and the Brain. That character is infused so much more than just goofy. It's so lovable. You just can't help but love Pinky.
Yes.
But, you know, my best Pinky impression, gee, Brain, what do you want to do tonight? That's as good as it gets. We do everything. You play your role and I'll play mine. And Rob Paulson sends his love, apologizes for not being able to be here. He has been put on strict voice rest by his doctor. He had a very, very tough recording session for a video game, and he really, you know, blew out his vocal cords, so he's been put on strict voice rest. So he apologizes to you all for not being here. He wishes he could be here, but he sends his love.
Hi, big fan.
Thank you.
Now, I have a question. When the nostalgia critic asked you to do a role for the Brain,
Oh, God. Remember, it was like this yesterday.
what was your actually do a role when you and him finally divorce each other.
Yeah, I didn't know, he didn't explain the concept. You have to, the unfortunate thing is that thing, the animation dropped on the internet before the whole episode did. So there were a lot of people that wrote me and said, why did you do that? You ruined my childhood. If I have that kind of power, oh well. I really should take over the world. It was part of a larger episode where the point of preventing a terrible apocalyptic future is breaking up Pinky and the Brain. But when he got us up to his hotel room, all he did was, he interviewed us for his show. And they said, would you guys record a little something I've written? We do that. I mean, if you come to my table and you want me to do your answering machine, I'll do that. It's a little cost involved, but I'll do that. My agent makes me, I've got a guarantee I've got to meet, so, but I'll do it. So I thought, all right, we'll go do his answering machine or something like that. So we get up to the hotel room and here's this F-laden thing, where we're just swearing at each other. What are we doing? Trust me, it'll be funny. Okay, we said we'd do it, I'm a man of my word, and we'll do it. So we did it. And so when I'm turning to him at the end there, and they cut to real life, and we're in the hotel room, and I go, you sure this is for kids? I'm not kidding around. I'm like, really, are you sure this is for kids? I'm like, what are you doing? But it ended up being kind of brilliant. If you watch the whole episode of Nostalgia Critic, it ends up being a kind of a brilliant episode. Yeah, so sorry for your childhood. Brain will never say shit again.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm horrible at public speaking. I want to say thank you. You're fantastic.
Actually, you have a very nice voice.
Oh,
I'm not kidding.
I appreciate it.
Don't be afraid of public speaking.
What was your favorite Futurama character that you played?
So it's such a rich palette. They gave you so many characters. And did you have a follow-up on that, or?
Oh, yeah, and then did you cry at Fry's dog?
Let me tell you something. I've never seen the episode. I cried at the table reading. We read that episode and David Cohen described the final scene. I'm sitting there going, so I can't watch that episode based on what I already know. I've never watched the episode, but I know people, grown men, who just can't pick it up. So, yeah. But my favorite Futurama character, it's like asking you to pick amongst your children. I mean,
I love Lur, ruler of the planet Omicron for CIA.
because he's kind of Big Bob Pataki from Hey Arnold meets Morbo. They're not the same voice. I know I make that joke constantly on the commentaries and wherever I appear, but they really aren't the same.
Morbo is a newscaster on a very stentorian. And Lur is just, he's a kid. Anything he says gets done, so. And they're flavor-free omelets.
So, I do love Lieutenant Keith. He has a vulnerability in that he's got courage when called upon. So Kiff may be right up there, but I love
Lur because Lur
won me an Emmy, so. Of course, Calculon won me the other one because of his unholy acting talent! That was some free acting for you. Don't have to sit through a tampon commercial to get acting. No autographs, please. Except not at my table for 20.
Hello, thank you for coming. And my question harkens back to Pinky and the Brain. Out of all the Brain schemes, which one is the one that you would have really wished to have seen succeed?
We did see one succeed.
I missed that episode.
We did. How many people here saw the Christmas episode? Our Emmy-winning Christmas episode. That plan succeeded. The beauty of the plan the beauty of the episode is, he has the world in the palm of his hand. But he's so touched by Pinky's gesture and by the letter that he wrote to Santa, that he's so filled with the spirit of Christmas that all he can do is command everyone to have a very Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Joy to the world! And then he destroys the machine. But he had the world in his hand. He took over the world for about 7 seconds. And what he did with it was command everybody to have a Merry Christmas. That's why it's my favorite Pinky and the Brain. The Brain is not a villain. The Brain wants to take over the world because he truly believes that with his 275 IQ, he can actually make it a better place. And that's the way I always played the character, and that's the way that they began to write the character when I said, this is how I have to play him. You can't play a villain. You can't play a guy who thinks he's doing the wrong thing. You have to play a guy as though he's doing the right thing, even if he's the most vile character in the world. Heath Ledger's Joker actually has a moral center. It's not yours and my moral center, but he does have a center that he's coming from where he thinks that he's helping people by showing them the world as a chaotic place. There is nothing but chaos. And of course he gets his jollies watching people die. But anyway, I get my jollies watching people laugh. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you already said you didn't watch the episode with where Bryce dog, but how often are you able to sit back and kind of watch some of your episodes? And are you able to do that after spending so much time in the studio with the script?
I usually don't watch things fresh off the presses. It's too new to me, and I just hear me, and I remember what I was thinking as we were recording, and maybe I was in between takes going, I wonder what they're bringing in for lunch. But if some time goes by, I can watch a couple of years later. Like Pinky and the Brain to me is now a terrific cartoon show about two lab mice who are dear friends. Who can't, he can't show him how much he loves him, but they're dear friends, and they just happen to try to take over the world every day. And I watch that, and I'm somewhat divorced from it, so I can enjoy it without that sort of judgment in my head about what I did, and should I waited a little longer on that line, on that note, held that note a little longer, given a little longer pause between each thing. I now watch it and just enjoy it, So it's comedy plus time for me. So I can go back to things and enjoy them, but fresh off the presses, I'm too critical of myself.
So we know that Pinky and the Brain were never on the same page when they were pondering but not pondering. But what was your favorite Pinky pondering moment?
I think the one that Rob Paulson breaks out most of the time when we're together. And again, my very poor Pinky. Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? Well, I think so, Brain, but if Jimmy cracks corn and no one cares, why does he do it? It's one of the great questions. I'm so sorry, could you just, if you can, come in a little on the long way.
If Pinky and the Brain was going to be a movie, would you want it to be live action or regular 2D animation?
What I would like it to be brilliant CGI of Pinky and the Brain, but in a human world. Just what they can do with CGI, and I'd love for them to start the movie with, two regular mice, cinematically shoot two mice going through the thing, and they come out these misshapen characters, but they interact in the real world. That would be if I could, if I want to reach if I could finance my own Pinky and the Brain, that's how I'd start the film. And we pile on all the celebrities as the people they encounter as they try to take over the world. To be one of those journey picture, a quest, and but that's the way I'd like to see it done.
As I say, I think Rob had the same question I was talking to his podcast. He said if they did it live action, it'd be like Russell Brand and Peter Dean.
No, that's me. I said that I'm almost in no hurry for them to make it because I fear in this time of celebrity stunt casting, they won't use us as Pinky and the Brain. That's why I said put all the celebrities around Pinky and the Brain. But when you went to see the Transformers movie, and Optimus Prime had his first line, and you heard Peter Cullen, the voice from your childhood, right? Didn't you just get like a chill up your spine. Holy shit, I mean, when I was sitting there, everybody was saying, holy shit, it's the real Optimus. You know? And I was a little upset that Frank Welker didn't play Megatron. 'Cause, I mean, Hugo Weaving's a tremendous actor, but it's not that it needed to be Hugo Weaving. I think people would have gotten a big thrill if it was Frank. You know? So, but anyway, Frank got to be other characters in the picture, and that's my own little bugaboo. I don't begrudge celebrities any work in voiceover. I believe you've got a SAG card, I've got a SAG card, we all deserve to be in the picture. But when it's iconic characters, and I'm not talking, I don't even talk my character up too much, but you know, they kind of made a little mark, those two guys. And I'm not saying it as me, I'm saying it as those guys. The characters themselves, they're the stars. But part of that stardom is the chemistry between Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche. So I would probably be very depressed. I mean, it's certainly much more so than the depression or whatever seems to be going on right now over Woman Ghostbusters. I think that's actually going to be terrific. You can't bring back, you know, God rest his soul, Harold Ramis, and we can't make it with the Ghostbusters at the age with Peter, you know, being the age Bill is and all that. You know, this is going to be a fresh take on it. But with Pinky and the Brain, they're animated. They don't have to age. And that dynamic, I think, was what sold the show all those years. So hopefully, if they ever do, they won't use Peter Dinklage and Russell Brand. Even though Peter would probably be better for the mocap. Yeah. I just shot myself in the foot. This is going to go up on YouTube, and Spielberg's going to see it and go, yeah. As soon as Dinklage raps Game of Thrones. So that's, but yeah, I'd love to do it if they were ready. That's all. Paulsen and I are both standing at the ready. Celeb casting. Would you guys like celebs in the roles of Pinky? No. Leader revolt. Would you guys like celebs in the roles of Pinky and the Brain? No. Pitchforks there, Al. Look at pitchforks. Stephen, pay attention. There are pitchforks.
You are a celebrity.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm the best required.
Develop the voice of the character until the character exists and is in front of you? Or do you ever develop potential characters and wait for the right matchup to use an idea that's already in your head?
I do both, to be honest with you. You know, I'm constantly trying out things with my voice, just different vocal tensions, or some strange person I meet, you know, that I think has a weird take on the way they speak, and I'll look at them, and I'm almost like you know, Siler from Heroes. You know, I'm almost like I wish I could just slice their head open and pull their voice out. And I listen and I start repeating after them, and you know, I look odd when I do it, and then I bank it, and then I take out my little voice memo thing on my iPhone, and I'll do the person's voice into the phone, and then I'll name that file interesting voice number 4, whatever it is, and email it to myself. So then I just filter for interesting voice, and sometimes if I'm lost for like guy number 3, I'll find that. Other times I look at the one sheet, not the one sheet, that's for theater. I look at the model sheet, and like in the case of Brain, I had no idea what they wanted, but I saw that arched eyebrow and that pronounced forehead, and I just saw Orson Welles. They didn't have Orson Welles in mind, but that face was Orson Welles to me. So I did Orson Welles, and it seemed to be. So very often I'm informed by the artwork, and I just sort of think of that artwork as a new skin for myself, and I sort of in my mind climb into that skin and feel like what would I sound like if I was that character.
I wanted to ask you about Zootopia.
Yes.
When you were Mr. Big,
Yes.
did they alter your voice at all?
They did. It's the only voice I do where I can't like reproduce it for you right here and have it sound like it does in the movie. They gave it an 18 to 24% pitch upwards, depending on the scene. And the engineer told me it was it's 8 semitones higher than what we recorded. So I can do the performance for you.
Oh, cool.
I have to, baby. Daddy. But they took it up, so I can't ever just do it and have people go, oh wow, that's the voice from the movie. I mean, if you can hear it in the performance, that's great. Whereas the king in Frozen is actually, you know, a version of my actual speaking voice. I didn't do anything except whisper. I just kind of did, you know, just. Actually, I change it whenever I meet young children now who want a picture of the king. I take their hand and I go, feel it, don't conceal it. Let your gifts and your feelings show. These gloves won't help. So, I reverse everything. Because the king he's not the villain of the piece in the classic sense, but what he says to his daughter, you know, triggers the dysfunction that just makes everything start to go wrong in the movie. So if he hadn't said that, she might have had a normal life. Of course, there'd be no movie, but so that's my take on doing voices. And Jennifer Lee just said, you know, I just want to hear you. Just give me you. You're the first person in 30 years that's asked for that. But okay. Any more? Yes.
If you can go back and do a show like looking at the casting crew where they serve the best lunches, which one would be?
The best lunches?
Which show would you go back and do if it was just for whatever reason? What show would you go back?
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking me which show had the best lunch.
It's nothing to that.
The Critic, actually. The Critic, we would just go up to the 20th Century Fox commissary and have lunch every week. It was really great to see these huge stars and these studio heads, and you just realize, oh wow, I guess I kind of got here. I did okay. They had the 20th Century Fox over there. But the one I would want to do all over again, and would hope to do more of someday, is Pinky and the Brain. And all very close to my people. And every time I see Matt Groening, you know, he says, don't count Futurama out. It may be a while, but you know, he would love for it to come back, and it's his baby. And you know, you might see something. This is not a confirmation by any means. There's nothing in the works. But when a guy with Matt Groening's, you know, clout and money wants something done, it generally somehow gets done. So hopefully we'll do it before Billy West is 85. But if Billy West is 85, I know one thing about him. His voice will still sound like Fry, because he's the most awesome voice guy I've ever met. Well, on par with Frank Welker, and he also does nothing to, you know, to hurt his cords. He's a vegan, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs. So those cords are pure. The same with Welker, by the way. They both live extremely clean lives. Unfortunately, had a little love affair with cigars in the 80s and 90s and part of the thousands, and finally quit them in 2007. But, it's left me a little gravel, which is great for things like the 2016 Lexus GS. Once through, there's no going back. You know, I can't do the high-end stuff. I can't get up there into the falsetto range anymore because I just, you know, suck too much nicotine down onto my cords. So, you know, don't smoke. If you want a career in this business, don't smoke. And if you do smoke, stop. It's uncomfortable for about 4 days. For about 4 days, it feels like there's like, you know, Fred and Barney inside your brain going, hey, Fred, tickle it with a feather. You're not stopping until you smoke. And then, you know, like when they're inside that whale, that episode. You know, and after that, you're done. You're done. Cravings are over. All you have are thoughts, and your thoughts will pass within 5 minutes. That's how I quit smoking. Somebody gave me that little clue. They said, 5 minutes, and the craving's over whether you give into it or not. You know, you're only having thoughts. You're not having the physical nicotine craving. And I've stuck with that for about 9 years now. That's good. You're not going to neuralize me, are you? I want to remember this panel. This is actually being a tremendous. This is a tremendous experience.
So, I know you best from Futurama, but recently I figured out that you were actually on one of my favorite shows, Rick and Morty.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
I love love Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon.
So I was wondering if you're going to be doing any more work for the Lakers.
I come when called. When Justin and Dan call, I come. I've done a couple of episodes for the new season. Justin, the first time I walked into a Rick and Morty session was episode 2, where the dog takes over. And Brock Paulson's so brilliant. He's the snowball dog. But I play that little accountant character. But I didn't know anything about this show or this guy. I walk in and he's a kid. He's like 31, 32 at the time. And I said, so what made you hire me to be a dog accountant? And what do these lines mean? He said, when I was a kid, teenager, I started studying art. And I used to come home and watch Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. And I swore to myself, if I ever was lucky enough to have a show, when I became an adult, got into this world, I would use you guys. I would work with you guys. I want to work with you. So that day, at episode 2, you'll notice, if you look at the credits, Rob Paulson, Tress McNeil, Jess Harnell, and
Wow.
Maurice LaMarche. And he's been true to it. One of us has been in almost every episode, or we've, cross-pollinated. And so, Aberdolf licked character, allow me to emancipate you from your inferior genes. It's so great. And Dan's a genius, and I just love those guys. So such a thrill to be part of such a genius show. Yes?
Speaking of geniuses, what is it like working with Steven Spielberg?
Well, Steven only came to one session, on a Tiny Toon session, and it was a day that I was sick, so I actually missed it. He signed a Disney Devil model sheet. Just said, Maurice, where were you? I had the flu. So that was the only time that I would have had a chance to work with him. I did get to meet him twice. He threw this huge party on the Warner Brothers lot. And, we had Yakko, Wacko, and Dot actually hanging from the water tower, giant figurines of them. And so I got to meet him, and he's got this incredible gift of making you feel like you're the only person in the room. His eyes never go anywhere but on you, has a conversation with you, and then he threw this a similar party 2 years later. And when I met him, again, I didn't need to be reintroduced. He remembered my name, he remembered what we talked about, and I was like, wow, I can't remember, this was 20 years ago. I was still, relatively young. I'm very unfocused, and I have difficulty with names and that sort of thing. So it's a really amazing facility for him to have. So it was great. It was very inspiring. When a guy of this caliber goes, your work's pretty good. I like the work you do. Guess all the hard work paid off. Guess you don't suck at your job. Keep doing it. Are we out of questions?
I think we have time for one more.
One more?
One more.
Are there any roles that you passed up that you regret?
Are there any roles I passed up
That you
regret?
that I regret? No. There are no roles I passed up that I regret. I did pass up something that when there was a boom of flash animation for online. There was one particularly poor taste cartoon, and I played. There was but the same company did something called Hard Drinkin' Lincoln, where Abraham Lincoln was an alcoholic, and I played John Wilkes Booth, and I shot him in every episode. That wasn't, I felt it's not too soon. There was one that was highly religiously offensive. And I'm not particularly religious, but I'm sensitive to other people's religiosity, and I didn't want to be part of something that could really, just upset people at a spiritual level. So I walked away from that one. I don't regret it at all. Yeah. That's about it. I mean, it's as controversial as I get. So.
And in closing, my final question to you, Maurice, is what advice do you give aspiring voice actors?
The advice that Rob Paulson and I, we're on the same page with this because we get asked this question a lot together. And we almost answer in unison. Become a good actor first. Your voice is important, obviously, otherwise it's pantomime. But, everybody's got a voice, and a lot of people can manipulate their voices to do other things, and some people only have one voice. I have a dear friend, Andy Geller, who was the voice of ABC, and the voice of Lost. And Andy just has that one voice, but boys, when he reads that copy, you go, yes sir, I will tune into Lost. He's got authority, and he's got depth, and he's got gravitas. And he's a good actor. So be a good actor before you worry about being a good voice actor. Voice acting is simply acting without the hair, lighting, makeup, and key light, and hitting your mark. Your mark is, this far from the mic. Other than that, you're an actor. I remember we were doing a show called Captain Simeon and the Space Monkey. Yay! Thank you! God bless you for yaying. I love that show. It's actually in like my top 10 of shows I've ever done in terms of writing. I love that show. It was not, I guess, distributed well. And Hallmark didn't quite have its legs yet. It was one of the first shows Hallmark financed. It was great. We had DC Fontana writing episodes. Yep. We had Star Trek people writing episodes. We had Star Trek people on the show. And Michael Dorn watched Jeff Bennett and I play a bunch of characters in an episode early on. And Michael looked at us and went, wow, you guys are just like real actors. And I looked at him from across the studio. He's about as far away from me. I went, if you were any other man, I would kill you when you stand. So what are you talking about, Michael? Of course we're actors. We just don't get in front of the camera. But it's acting, man. It's just, so be a good actor. Be good, take not only scene study workshops, but if you've got anything like improv groups or the Groundlings where you work on sketch comedy characters, that's extremely helpful too. I mean, a lot of people in animation came from the Groundlings, both on the writing end and the performing end. Sherry Stoner, who was, Slappy Squirrel, a Groundling. Kristen Wiig, who on the Looney Tunes show was Lola Bunny, Groundling. I don't know if you've heard of her or not. That was before she was doing big movies. She was doing some cartoons. Melissa, a Groundling. Her husband, a Groundling. So anything like that, anything that helps you work on your comedy chops. Don't worry about your voice. That's for radio. Work on acting. If you're the type of person who's stand-up oriented, you've got a little bent for standing up in front of a microphone telling jokes or doing bits, do that. 10 years of stand-up comedy really helped me learn where the funny is in reading a line. So these are all the tools that I would do. And then worry about getting on, for all you know, you might, on your way to becoming a good actor, be a stand-up comedian, you might land a TV series and make $250,000 a week, and still go, I want to do a cartoon. But it's okay, it's all open to you. Work on being a good actor first. That's what I am. So that's it. With that, I want to thank you guys for coming out. This has been a lot of fun.
Once again, let's give it a round of applause. Mr. LaMarche, now all the heroes, as well as 3 canals here in the powerhouse. Please refer to your photos or on quest.